Thoughts and prayers is an infuriating phrase to me at this point. Of course, the actual phrase doesn't really have problems with it. The actions themselves can be good in isolation. But the usage of that term and how it has actively been used for years to just be the blanket neutral reaction to a tragedy and how it almost never leads to anything else is why it is so obnoxious and painful for me to hear at this point. And so I wanted to make a change that would hopefully wipe that phrase from existence, or at least make people that say it take some responsibility for how it is at the same time. And of course, me being Wippy Thoughts, I can't really change thoughts very well without destroying myself in my own channel. But prayer, I can change, and I have ideas on prayer and some things that I definitely think should change, and I will be changing the word pray instead. And of course, that's a very religious word, and I don't want to just make this about bashing religion. I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like I know everything about the inner workings and origin of the universe. I don't know what's going on. Basically, no one does. People have different things that they believe, and that's totally fine. I'm not here to attack religion or any specific religion, but I do think there is some aspects of prayer that people do really approach incorrectly and make it an unhelpful tool. And before I go into all of that, I just want to give a little context for why this video is coming out in case it's watched later. Yesterday in the United States, 14 elementary school children and also a teacher were shot up at their elementary school by, I believe, an 18-year-old in Texas. And it's somewhat embarrassing and hard to say, but I don't even pay attention to them anymore, I feel like. I hear there's a mass shooting. I don't go looking for information. I don't try to see what's going on. I'm just so used to them, which is an awful thing to happen with a problem like this. And I kind of feel like hearing just thoughts and prayers after every single one makes you even more used to it. It's the same response every time. You just hear, oh, our thoughts and prayers for the families involved, and that's all you ever get. So it may be deliberate, or at least this is the simplex that it's having that makes us more used to these tragedies. And it's almost like, oh, why give a more detailed explanation or look into it more or how to solve this, because another one's going to happen in a day or two. And so I feel like that's why it kind of stopped hitting me that this was happening. But today did. Because I'm like, oh, another school shooting. Okay, that sucks. Then I heard elementary school, and I'm like, And then I heard 14 elementary school children died. And that really clicked, and like, what the hell? And that, I'm like, okay, maybe I should really pay attention to this, and why have I not been paying attention to this? And so it simplexed me more than these really ever do. And of course, I don't have a whole lot of power with my voice and my channel right now, but that isn't going to stop me from trying to get rid of a phrase that has been so destructive, honestly, as thoughts and prayers. Because the way I view that phrase, and kind of prayer in general, is that it's really a step one to solving something. It's like identifying a problem. And the analogy that you have a book that has a solution in it, and once you read that book, you'll be able to solve your problem. Prayer is like the act of opening the book. And the problem is, a lot of people stop with prayer. They will pray and they think, okay, I've done what I can do. Now we just wait, or we continue to pray, and hopefully things get solved. Even if you do believe in a God and you're praying to a certain person that you think is going to be powerful and aid you in this scenario, do you really think you shouldn't be doing other things to help facilitate that? Like, even the religious people that I don't agree with, I much prefer when people are trying to act out their God's will through themselves. Because then they're at least aspiring to be the greatest thing that they can think of. And they're trying to be the change that they believe in this world, which of course, that's kind of what I do, even though I am not religious. And having the thought, trying to manifest that something will happen, that's a good start. But if you just open the book that has the solution in it, and you never take any more steps, you're not getting anywhere. And it seems like that's been our response, is to open the book and go to step 1 for years. Every single time one of these tragedies happen, it's like, all right, back to step 1, thoughts and prayers. Like, there's no moving forward. It's the same problem, getting the same solution that isn't a solution at all. So that applies to thoughts and prayers, and also prayer in general too. Because a lot of people, they'll pray about something and then they just kind of let things happen. They don't push themselves to do what they're hoping for or help make that happen in any way. And if you do believe in a God, hopefully he's going to guide you through and help you with that thing you're trying to do. It's not that you ask for something and it's going to fall into your lap now. And that's why I will be changing pray to an acronym that reflects how a lot of people approach prayer, where it's no longer their responsibility. And that's why I think prayer should now stand for pass responsibility at you. And this is especially applicable to the thoughts and prayers tagline, because they're like, oh, it's no longer our problem. We acknowledged it. We acknowledged a tragic thing happened. We said the token phrase that we have to get this off our back without adding anything new to the conversation or trying to help at all. We're just going to move this problem aside and hopefully someone else deals with it. It's your problem now. And for a person like me, hearing that someone's thoughts or prayers or both are with you, if you're going through something or something terrible just happened to you, I hate it. I honestly do, because it's like, I don't believe your prayer is going to do anything. And then your thoughts, I don't want those unless you're going to act on them to help improve things. I usually am not looking for a lot of help, so I don't desire that a ton. But usually that just means, oh, you're sad, so I'm going to feel sad. That's what the thoughts section is. So it's like, oh, you're going through this tough time, and now other people around you also feel extra sadness before it. That's not what I like to see. Usually if I'm suffering, I want to be the only one suffering. And I know that can be an unhealthy strategy, but I feel like I don't want to pass on that pain if there's nothing the other person can do about it. If it can help me, then it might be something that I have to do still. But if it's not going to, and it's not going to help them either, they're just going to feel worse. I don't want them to have those thoughts. I don't want to add that on. Thoughts and prayers, it's like, oh yeah, we're back to step 1 of acknowledging it's the problem, essentially. And then, oh, a sad thing happened, so we're saying the phrase that we're sad, and we're going to be sad that the sad thing happened. So yay, there's extra sadness in the world now, because we're going through thoughts and prayers. And I feel like it's a phrase that will just keep us stuck and doing nothing and not improving, which is the opposite of what I believe in, the opposite of what this series is about, and the opposite of what humanity is about. So I'm going to have it be that I can no longer say pray at all. If I ever want to say pray, I have to speak the entire acronym, I think, since I want prayer kind of just like X'd out, essentially, in order to really destroy this phrase. So if you wanted to say thoughts and prayers, you would instead have to say thoughts and pass responsibility at you. And I wasn't super satisfied with the acronym right away. I would have preferred it to be like pass responsibility over to you, like something similar to that, so it seems like the message is also being received and that it is present and being accounted for, and the responsibility is being taken by what it's being directed at. However, considering this is prayer we're talking about, you never know if your prayers are being received and that they're actually being acknowledged. Because you could be praying to nothing and no one. I mean, there's a good chance that majority of people are doing that with how many different religious beliefs there are. So it's really directing those thoughts and those feelings to something without knowing it's going to be caught and engaged with. So saying that you're passing at something is actually perfect, because that's all you're doing. You're sending it out in a direction you don't know if it's ever going to be received, however, which makes it even less worthwhile than if it was like pass responsibility over to you, because then it at least means something's going to have responsibility taken for it, which is not the case with actual prayer. in a lot of scenarios. Even if one of the core main religions is absolutely correct, that leaves a lot of people that are wrong and that have been praying in the wrong manner. So that's my approach here and why I think it is counterproductive as a phrase. I now want to go on to our song and video of the day, which both kind of play into this topic a bit. Song of the day is XXX by Kendrick Lamar. This is an awesome song off of Damn. First half or so of the song is pretty like hardcore kind of gangster vibes, but then it more flows into just kind of American gun control problems and issues and approaches to the problem, and some of the hypocrisy and power dynamics that go through, which really capitalizes on the setup of the first half of the song, speaking on gun and gang violence as just kind of normal existence. So this is a great listen that has been very appropriate for years now. Then for the video of the day, it is Steve Kerr's reaction to the Texas shooting that happened yesterday that I referenced, and he gave a very impassioned talk with obvious frustration. I think he articulated a lot of the problems going on very well. And for some context, Steve Kerr's parents actually were educators, and his dad, I think, was in like an ambassador role with education overseas and was actually killed overseas with a gun. I think when Kerr was still in college, and I think he was like in his early 20s maybe. Steve, I'm talking about. And so he has more experience with kind of the pain of losing a family member in this way than a lot of people. And he's always been pretty vocal about trying to resolve some of these issues, and it seems like he's kind of getting to his breaking point at seeing the lack of improvement. And I definitely felt like this is an important video to view and something that can put some things into perspective. So that will do it for one of the most serious daily do's that we have gone through. Peace out.